why do so many people struggle or suffer by not taking action of that thing they really want to do? And they wait for years.
Yeah. Well, again, it's the same thing with change, And people who say one day I'm going to change or I'll change tomorrow, they're in a program, right? So more than likely, the person hasn't just carved out the passion, but the ingredient that brings something to life, because we study this now, is really the excitement of that vision. You can have that vision, and if it's sterile without the excitement, there's no energy to move towards it. But nobody's going to create that excitement but you. I mean, no one's coming for you. No one's going to come for you and say that. And like a person who just says, oh my God, I saw the vision. Whoa, like I am so excited. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. It's no longer have to.
It's happening.
They're already living in that future, right? The thing is that we have to keep it alive.
Yeah. What if you have excitement, but the fear is greater than the excitement?
Then you'll never change.
Yeah.
You'll never change.
So the fear has to be, like, there might be some anxiety or some, worry. Is this going to work?
Choice. It's just a choice. But when you make a choice to change, and you have that decision, and that decision carries an amplitude of energy that's greater than the hardwired programs in your brain and the emotional conditioning in your body, so that the body responds to a new mind. The choice that you make in that moment arouses the body to feel the emotion of that future before it happens. The stronger the emotion you feel, the more you remember that choice. And in a sense, you're giving your body a sampling, a taste of the future emotionally. And so many people say, I can remember the moment I made up my mind to change. I can tell you exactly where I was, what time of day it was, who I was with, because the event became a long-term memory, right? So the stronger the emotion we feel to some trauma in our life, the more we pay attention to it, the more we brand that in our brain and body as a long-term memory. Now, the person's doing that by thought alone. So if they can't come out of their resting state, then in a sense, it's not that they're lying to themselves. They're just, the body just knows they're not going to do it. And so the body can say, stay on the couch, watch one more round of Netflix, watch one more show.
Have some more ice cream.
Have a little ice cream, Get to it tomorrow. You're doing great. But that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But if a person truly wants to actualize their dream, they got to be possessed by it. I mean, to such a degree.
Obsessed.
Possessed, like it's on their mind all the time. Not like I have to. It's just like, oh my God, I'm so excited about this. And I've seen people in our work create enormous abundance. The moment they locked in, they were just like, oh, I knew it. Like the body got it, right? The body was getting the taste of the future. And then all they had to do was keep that feeling going every day, because it was that energy, that excitement that was driving them to get out of bed and make a different choice, even though they didn't want to. And when we make those choices, in spite of those voices over and over again, the voices go away. And whether you're becoming a champion in handball, or whether you're being a father, or whatever it is that you make up your mind to do, if you really make up your mind to do that, you got to make a different choice, a lot of different choices. And those choices lead to different behaviors, and that's how you change.
Let me ask you a question. If you're able to coach me, use me as an example. I've had this dream, I've told you about this, I've had this dream to be an Olympian, to be an Olympic athlete playing with USA team handball in Los Angeles in less than 2.5 years away, right? And I've been clear about this dream for the last 18 years once I got into the sport. And I moved to new cities. I went to different countries. I've traveled the world playing this sport. I've moved all my time and energy around making it happen to get on the USA national team, staying on the team for a decade. Then life happened and I got off track for a few years, but now I've been back for the last few years, reorganizing my time and setting my life up in a way to get myself to the Olympics as an athlete in 2028. Now I get goosebumps just thinking about it and saying it. I feel it in my body. I feel excited. I see myself on the bench, coming off the bench, scoring a goal. I see myself singing the national anthem in front of 30,000 people. I feel it. I feel like all the things that I've had to overcome to get there and the obstacles in my way that were just like, I'm excited about these obstacles because it's just helping me grow into changing and developing into the person I need to be to make this thing happen. But I also know it's not guaranteed. Like tomorrow's not guaranteed. I may not be here. Like whatever reason, there might be a reason why I'm not on the team. I also have that understanding that You can set an intention for a big goal, a big dream. I want to hit this much in sales or make this much or have this type of thing. And you could feel it and it still may not happen, or it may look different than what you originally envisioned, right? Maybe something better happens. Maybe it's like life happens in some other way. Could you coach me as an example for anyone else who has a big dream, 2, 4, 10 years away that they're excited about? They're organizing their life. They're planning. They're taking the daily actions. They're letting go of the old self and stepping into that new self that actualizes that goal and dream. Could you coach me on the process? If there's anything that might be limiting me from holding me back from creating this, is it even silly for me to say, well, maybe it won't happen? Like even remove that thought? Should I let that go and say it's happening no matter what? Like, how should I be interpreting and thinking about this while I'm taking the actions, I'm doing the right steps, I'm embodying the emotion, I'm visualizing, I'm all those things I'm doing, but is there anything I'm doing wrong?
Well, first of all, I think you're doing a lot of things right.
Okay, that's good.
Just because just your body language in general and just your enthusiasm and theos filled with God, you're the idea of that future is so amazing that you're experiencing it right now. Right?
Yeah, I get chills when I think about it.
Yeah, that's exactly the body responding to the mind, right? And so I think it's really healthy. I think everything you're doing is really great. There's always that one catch of like, what if it isn't the truth? Like, what if I love this stuff and what if it doesn't work? It's a really tough one. I face that a lot too.
Really?
Yeah. But like, what's the alternative? The alternative is you're not going to play small at this point.
I'm not.
You're not.
I'm all in.
So I always ask myself, what is that point where everybody else stops? Wherever that point is, I'm going to go past that point. Because if I can go past that point where everybody stops, I'm going to have a lot of trust in myself, a lot of belief in myself, right? So, and your belief in yourself has to be earned, right? You have to earn that.
Yes. You can't fake it.
You can't. You got to show up enough times where you start feeling pretty worthy, right? And, there's limitations with talent and skill and all that, all that stuff, age, all those things are factors. But if you're doing everything that you're doing the way you're doing it right now, I think it's also really healthy to be totally resolved if it doesn't happen. Because if you're resolved if it doesn't happen, then you could say, that was a great ride. Like, I would never be this guy, right? And then, of course, as you said, I always leave that door open for like, okay, that didn't happen, but wow, this happened, and it happened in a way that I'd never thought of, right? I'd never expected.
Some people might think about this and say, okay, you have to obsess about the goal, the dream, the outcome that you want to create, whether it's a year away or 10 years away. But if it doesn't happen and you're obsessed about it, are you crushed? Is like your life over? Some people may not be prepared for when it doesn't happen. It's
never over.
Yeah.
It's never over.
So how do you in your mind have all the excitement, all the joy, all the anticipation, feel the feelings, think things, do the actions, but then is there also 1% of you saying, but this may not happen and that's okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's how you interpret it?
Yeah. But I mean, that is not a voice that I'm going to allow to dominate my mind.
So it's not going to be a 99% of the time.
It's a healthy voice that like, Joe, you're going to go as hard as you can. You're going to go all in. You're going to make something that you're going to enjoy doing.
Yes.
And your goal is realistic and you can get there and just keep going past that point where you normally stop, put in a little extra time, work a little harder, feel good about it. And you may arrive and you may not. And if you don't, be okay with it. But we're focusing on this as an outcome.
So you have that thought as well sometimes.
Of course. But what's taken me the longest time is to try to no longer try to control the outcome. And so we have to lay down the very thing we've done our whole life to get what we want for something else to happen. And that's not that easy, right?
So what's the difference between trying to control the outcome and doing everything you can to create the outcome and also surrendering to what happened?
Yeah. I think when you get to a point where you're satisfied with yourself, it's really easy to surrender. And
how do you know if you're satisfied or if that's the point where you usually stop and everyone stops and you need to continue?
I mean, you know what that point is.
Okay.
You always know what that point is where you went, wow, I would have never pushed myself this hard today. I'm so glad I showed up. I'm really happy with my effort. Let me just review what I did well. I want to do that again. Catalog that in there, rehearse it a few times, and then go out and enjoy your day. And I think surrender is not something that you ever finish with. I think it's an ongoing process. My understanding of surrender today is very different than it was a year ago because it's an ongoing process of letting go, right?
What have you had to surrender to in your life recently?
No, I mean, it's always a constant process of trusting the unknown. And if I start getting in the way, especially if I'm in the creative process, and sometimes if I try to direct it, it doesn't always work for me. So I have to be 1 foot in the real world and 1 foot in the quantum world. I got to straddle both worlds. So
what does that look like? 1 foot in the real world and 1 foot in the quantum world.
Yeah, it means like you're going to get up and you're going to go to work. You're going to be kind to people. You're going to be caring. You're going to be in good spirits. You're going to do your absolute best. You're going to do all the things that make you a great person. And, there's a lot of things you have to do in life. We're in a plane of demonstration. We do, right? But if you're creating in your meditations and you're creating from the field, you're trying to expedite the distance between the thought of what you want and the experience of having it. That's why we create from the field, right? So the synchronicities and the opportunities that start showing up should be working along with you stepping into that future. In other words, you're not going to be a great handball player unless you show up for practice.
That's true.
I mean, I had friends in college that applied every year to be an astronaut. And I say to them, they're never going to pick you. You don't know the first thing about aerospace, but they did it anyway because they love doing it, right? So there's a reality check here where you got to work hard. That's the 3D world. You got to still show up. You still got to change diapers. You still got to do things, right?
Yeah.
And that's the 3D world. But you do it with grace. You do it with respect. You do it with honor. You do it with dignity. You do it in a certain state and with love. And then you create from the field, and that's where you're looking at the experiment, how much of the experiment you could actually prove to be true for yourself, right? And that's the fun part. So nothing is ever lost in that process, because a person who dedicates their life to something like that and goes all in and gets to a certain point and they make it, or they get to a certain point that's just shy of it, if the person is astute in life, they'll use that same thing to create something even greater in their life, greater than the dream that they had right there, and they'll expedite the outcome in a shorter amount of time. So in the light of all eternity, every religion says we're eternal except for maybe a few. Consciousness never dies because energy never does. You're going to be around a long time, so how many experiences could you have, right? So what's the rush, right? I think it's what you're doing is there's a healthy, immersive way to do it, and the resolve is with yourself, and the resolve is I've given my absolute best.
Gotcha.
And if you resolve that way, you feel satisfied that way, somehow we let go of how it's going to happen, and when we let go of how it's going to happen, it happens in a new way. And sometimes it's really surprising, which it should be, right?
Yeah. And so, do you ever have self-doubt? Then does the voices in your head, when you have some crazy big idea, do you ever say, maybe you've gone a little extra far this one, Dr. J? What do you think? Okay, you've been able to create this, but that is just so unrealistic. Like, have you ever thought that?
Well, two things about that. In the work that we do in the events, I always want to be methodical. I want a person to heal themselves first. If they heal themselves, they can heal another person. If they heal another person, then there's other things they can heal another person remotely, which we've seen. So these are new experiences that are new opportunities in the field that, many people may not ever embrace. But I never want to stretch them to such a point where there's a big gap between their current understanding and this idea of something really amazing without filling that space with information and knowledge. I doubt when I don't have the substantial and important information enough to solidify that belief. Because if I start doubting, then I'm either living in the emotion of the past, and if I am, I can't see that future because that future has a different emotion, right? So I got to work my way back into that state. And let's not make this be about me, because there have been hundreds, if not thousands of people that have healed in this work, and they've done their meditations sometimes 3 times a day. And why were they doing them 3 times a day? Because they started doubting again. And they started disbelieving again, and they started feeling the emotions of doubt. And instead of staying there, they went back down and they changed their emotional state, and they got up after that meditation believing in themselves and believing in their future again. And that is exactly the overcoming process that leads to the becoming process. So we're always going to come up against our disbelief. Our chronic disbelief will always be there You'll know it'll be there the moment you make up your mind to change. It'll just go, okay, Lewis, here we go. I'm going to show you a few of those that have been sitting in there, that have been keeping you in the known. You're stepping out in the unknown, this can't happen, and all of that.
Right.
And those are the barriers that have people return back to the known. It feels right to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we should come across those beliefs because we can stop believing that and start believing in something else. I mean, and my belief, even in the last 5 years, in the last 2 years, has changed in what's possible for human beings. By far, just sort of unbelievable things happening.
With new beliefs coming to you of what's possible, what have been the challenges, the old beliefs that have tried to get in your way personally?
I would probably say, if it happened once, could it happen again? Right? I mean, we had a couple people regrow organs and tissues. So that's not
organs.
Something. Yeah,
you regrew them.
Yeah, that were surgically removed.
Wow.
Well, that's not something that I like to say publicly.
Really?
Too many times, but what does that mean?
That seems crazy to me.
I know it stretches my belief. Like I had
they regrew organs.
Yeah, like someone had their rectum and colon surgically removed, like 9 millimeters, and she grew 10 millimeters of her colon back.
That seems crazy to me.
It's crazy, right? And so what does that mean, though? It means the human body has the innate capacity to regenerate itself at any age if it's given the right information.
Wow.
That's not part of our programming, right? So that's something. I had to watch that testimonial 50 times in a row because it was going so against my belief, right? So I am hoping there's always a belief that I come up against. If I'm truly in the game of evolution, there should be another belief that says I can't or that's not possible until someone does it. And, if someone does it once, there's a footprint in consciousness that a person grows their thyroid back. It's not common that you go to your doctor and they remove your thyroid and then they do the ultrasound and there's a thyroid there. It's unbelievable.
It's the 4-minute mile.
And a 4-minute mile, once it was broken 2 weeks later and then 13,
hundreds of times.
Thousands.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's the same thing with our people who create abundance, people who create changes in chronic, serious stage 4 cancers and health conditions, blindness, deafness, whatever. They pop through a certain level of consciousness or unconsciousness, and the collective is observing the person on the stage telling the story. And when they see the person telling the story and they don't look particularly fit or particularly young or dressed very well or buffed, or they just look like someone at Whole Foods, just you would pass by, but they don't have Parkinson's disease anymore, or they don't need a colon bag anymore. They're living their life. So I think that is what causes the collective to see a possibility in reality, and now it's amongst the collective's consciousnss, and the probability of it happening again is greater. So that's why we see some people when we're at events we had 5 people with Raynaud's syndrome at one event in Europe, where you lose the feeling in your fingers and they're sensitized to cold. 5 people at one event because one person stood up and healed, 4 other people healed. We had 5 people step out of a wheelchair in Denver. It's just not something you see, but when one person does it,
creates a belief.
Yeah, and the belief is not just an intellectual thing. There's the energy that goes with that belief, and that is the energy that's causing them to believe in that future. I always want my beliefs challenged, and because I think it's really healthy, because I'm aware of things that I would have never been aware of before.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoy this and you want more inspirational content, make sure to click the subscribe button below and click right here to watch what's coming next.